Hey, how's it going? And today we are going to be exploring and getting started with the GPU visualizer. And this can help us when we go to optimize our game to help us make sure that we're not inefficiently using resources and we're not putting an excessive drag on performance. It's also important when we have a very complex scene. This isn't a complex scene, but I'm using this scene just to get started. But the next time I'm going to do a follow-up tutorial to this on actually how we can optimize. But I just wanted to show you how to get the GPU going and how we would set up our scene so that I don't have to do all that in another video. The video I think would be too long. So anyway, to get started with this, I'm just going to go ahead and bring a mannequin into the scene so we have something to look at. And then I'll show you. Let's say I wanted her to be a big part of my shot here. The camera always moves too fast, so let me just jump it down to 2. Okay, so let's say this is our scene that we're looking at optimizing for some reason. Okay, so now to get started with this, we want to set up our scene. So for the optimization. So the first thing we're going to do, and I already did a tutorial on this, I just did one on how to set bookmarks. So what we do to set a bookmark is we just hit Control and 1. And to show you that that works, I just move over here to some other part of the scene, and then if I click 1, it takes me right back there. And this is because as we're optimizing our scene, we want to make sure that as we're making adjustments, we're comparing back to our original reference point so that we're comparing apples to apples. So I want to make sure that we're being consistent in the scene that we're trying to optimize. And then the second thing we want to do is press G and get rid of all the gizmos if there are gizmos there. And this is something new I learned too, is if you hit escape and you're not playing the game, it deselects everything. So nothing's selected in the game. And now the last step is going to be to go into F11 so we have a full-size screen. But before we do that, we've got to call up the GPU visualizer. So to do that, we're going to come down here on the command line, make sure we're on CMD, the command line, and we're just going to type in ProfileGPU, and it pops up right here, the visualizer. So this tells us the system resources being used, and it kind of points us in the direction of what elements in our game, what components in our game are taking the most resources, and this guides us as far as how we can track things down. And then when we go to fix things and make things more efficient, we can print up another version of this and another screenshot and see if we're improving as we hope we are. And there's other things involved. It's a very complicated process, but this is just kind of a rough introduction to it. So this is what we need now there's two things we can do once we have the visualizer up. It's already taken kind of a shot of the scene. If we wanted this as a reference point right now, we could go ahead and minimize it and then just call it back up to look at it, or we could actually save this right now. So I could actually just go click save, and it saved a copy of the profile. And then we can pull that back up later in something called the profile visualizer. So this is almost like the task manager in Windows. Like it tells us what's using what in terms of computer resources. So, but we want to, before we do a visualization on what's going on in our scene, first we want it to be a full screen. So, but to do that, we have to have this up and running first. So now that it's up and running, I can just simply minimize this, and now I can hit F11 or click on the scene and click F11. Now if I hit the shortcut keys Control Shift comma, you'll see it's taken another snapshot. And then it's kind of hard to compare these like this, so that's why I think it's almost better that you save it out. So this one, we can save this one out and we can compare them later. And that's all I wanted to show you for today was just how to get started with the visualizer. And I'm going to press F11 now and come back here. In the next tutorial that I'm going to do, we're going to kind of start from this point where I'm going to have a scene up and I'll have the GPU visualizer already up and running as well. And then we can start looking into optimization more. But I just wanted to introduce you to the GPU visualizer and how you can get it up and running and saving out at the profiles. Okay, I hope you found this helpful. Take care and stay tuned for the next tutorial. I did want to show you one more thing I forgot to show you was before we saved out a couple visualizations, a couple profiles, we had just went saved. But if you're interested in bringing those back, you might wonder where they are. They're going to be stored in your project. So what you do is you just go into your project. In this case, we were in project 11. We would go to saved. We go to logs, and right in here, and these would be the 2 profiles that we saved. So then once you select one, you can open it up, and then it's going to come in what they call the profile data visualization here. And so it basically keeps a copy of how your machine was running in that given moment in time. You can kind of look at it, think of it as the GPU is sort of more real time, but then the data visualizer kind of lets you record that moment out in time and come back and look at it later. And it might be easier to compare them without the game actually running. So you can always come back later and look at these later to study where you can make improvements in terms of your system's performance. That's all I had again, so take care and stay tuned for the next tutorial.